While Imran Khan declares that Pakistan will follow the China model, China itself is increasing its military and economic ties with India. Is there truly an alliance between Pakistan and China? Or will the changing geostrategic trends that once brought these two countries together now move them apart? I'm Dr. Umar Khan, and this is Insight. In an April 2014 statement, Nawaz Sharif remarked that the relationship between Pakistan and China is sweeter than the sweetest honey in this world, deeper than the deepest ocean, higher than the highest peak. Nawaz Sharif was reiterating what has become mantra for successive leaders of Pakistan over recent years, who have described China as Pakistan's closest partner on earth. Yet, unlike the United States and Britain, for example, there is practically no shared culture, language, or historical relationship between China and Pakistan. Despite the desperate affirmations of the disgraced former Premier of Pakistan, the question remains: are Pakistan and China actually permanent allies? Or is the relationship between them merely a strategic alignment limited by time and dependent upon the global situation? After independence, Pakistan was one of the first countries to break off diplomatic ties with Taiwan and recognize the government of mainland China as the legitimate government of China. Bilateral relations developed cautiously from that point. Until 1963, China and Pakistan were engaged in a border dispute over the Trans-Karakoram Tract, which was peaceably resolved and saw Pakistan cede some territory to China. After the 1965 India-Pakistan War, Pakistan began to receive limited assistance from China. This expanded further following the 1971 conflict. It wasn't until after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, however, that the Pakistan-China relationship took on a deeper economic and strategic dimension, with China undertaking the decision to proliferate nuclear technical concepts and training to Pakistan. A cursory view of the strategic reality of the subcontinent would reveal that China sought to engage Pakistan to bolster it as a strategic counterweight to India. After all, China and India had come to hostilities in 1962 in a boundary dispute over Aksai Chin. Since then, China considered India a regional rival and saw two more military escalations with India, which stopped short of conflict. Providing military assistance to Pakistan would, therefore, have appeared to be a prudent and predictable strategic move for China. However, at the time of the 1965 war, Pakistan had already received over $3 billion in military assistance from the US. The US Air Force was operating out of Baraber and had transferred to Pakistan both the F-86 and the F-104 fighter aircraft. This demonstrates that the US had already committed to the military viability of Pakistan, which was at the time qualitatively superior to India. This assistance went far beyond anything China was willing to or indeed could provide. The critical change occurred after 1965, when US assistance was abruptly almost cut off completely. That created a window for China to engage Pakistan, a well-armed state with American technology, in a developing strategic relationship. The relationship moved forward slowly, with Pakistan still trying to re-engage with the US, which by 1971 had placed sanctions on Pakistan. Bhutto sought to amplify Pakistan's strategic value to the US through seeking to play a pivotal role in establishing direct diplomatic relations between the US and China. Although the diplomatic entente of 1972 was successful, Pakistan was unable to secure further significant military assistance from the US. During the same period, China continued to engage Pakistan, providing limited military assistance, although not even close to the levels of support Pakistan had previously received from the US. By 1979, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan had fundamentally changed the US's strategic thinking regarding Pakistan. The US based its operation to assist the Afghan insurgency, known as Operation Cyclone, in Peshawar. Pakistan was now once again receiving large volumes of financial and military assistance from the US. China, meanwhile, continued to provide assistance to Pakistan, albeit of an increasingly advanced technical nature. Despite periods of extensive US military support, Pakistan has always sought to engage in a strategic relationship with China. Pakistan has never received and does not expect to receive active military support from China in the case of hostilities with India. China has not and will not intervene militarily on the subcontinent in the case of such hostilities. Indeed, since 2018, China has established a joint training program with India and has carried out joint military exercises. Hence, Pakistan's motivation to engage with China is not to gain a military ally to help counter Indian aggression, as that is not a strategically likely reality. Pakistan's actual reasons for pursuing a strategic relationship with China are instead related to Pakistan's technical capabilities. Pakistan is a bona fide and tested nuclear power with a tactical battlefield nuclear capability which all but guarantees a viable defense against a larger, more powerful, and qualitatively superior India. In no small part, this nuclear capability arose following the strategic engagement with China, which has transferred technical concepts and training in this critical area to Pakistan. China has also tested Pakistan's nuclear weapons designs in China. Further, China has assisted Pakistan in its ballistic missile technology development, enabling it to develop solid-fueled mobile launch surface-to-surface missiles, both the Ghori series and the Shaheen series, which form the bulk of the Pakistani nuclear deterrent delivery system. Pakistan's Al-Zarar and Al-Khalid NBTs have been developed in cooperation with China, which helped establish the facilities at Heavy Industries Taxila. Further, the PAF has developed the JF-17 Thunder fighter aircraft in cooperation with China, and it is currently built in Pakistan, where the aeronautical complex Kamra was built with Chinese assistance. Through its cooperation with China, Pakistan has gone from a third-tier small arms producer to standing on the precipice of becoming a first-tier platform producer. Without natural strategic allies, Pakistan has sought to engage China in order to elevate its own defense capabilities, which it has done so at a formidable rate. But what does China gain from this otherwise odd strategic partnership? China's Air Force, Navy, and nuclear deterrent are vastly superior to India's, with an Air Force more than twice the size of India's and a Navy more than 3 times the size of India's. There is little strategic value gained for China vis-à-vis India from a strategic engagement with Pakistan. What has Pakistan provided China in the relationship? In a word, technology, specifically US technology in aeronautics and avionics. China has been the recipient of key US technologies via Pakistan, which it has effectively reverse engineered and incorporated into its aircraft. By the early 1980s, this process was already underway with the knowledge of the US. For example, the US was aware that if it transferred F-16 fighters to Pakistan, then the groundbreaking advances of the AN/ALR-69 radar warning system incorporated into the avionics of that aircraft would eventually end up in Chinese hands and be reverse engineered. The approval of the transfer of the F-16s was aimed at seeking to establish a military-to-military relationship between the US and China through Pakistan to orient China away from the then Soviet Union, which was already struggling to maintain parity with the US advances in Air Force technology and anti-ballistic missile technology. In another example, during the 1998 US cruise missile attack on targets in Afghanistan, at least one Tomahawk landed in Baluchistan in Pakistan. Others were recovered by the Pakistanis in Afghanistan. These missiles were transferred by Pakistan to China, where they were soon reverse engineered. These missiles served as a template for China's DH-10 guided cruise missile, as well as Pakistan's Babur cruise missile. China further developed an air-launched iteration of the Tomahawk, the KD-20, reverse-engineered from the same samples. In the 2011 US raid at Abbottabad, Pakistan allegedly downed a US UH-60 Black Hawk, which the US claimed had crash-landed. The Black Hawk was alleged to have had a unique outer skin, making it imperceptible to radar. Soon after the raid, US officials claimed that Pakistan had provided access to the wreckage to Chinese military specialists who had recovered parts of the wreckage and the stealth outer skin. Thus, one of the key features of China's post-Soviet invasion engagement with Pakistan has been to gain access to the US technologies that came with the extensive US military assistance Pakistan enjoyed through the 1980s. However, as the military dynamic between the US and Pakistan changes, and as China progresses rapidly in its military technology development, the utility of that dynamic will reduce for China. Diplomatically, Pakistan played an important role, albeit at the behest of the US, in facilitating China's direct diplomatic engagement with the US, resulting in Nixon's successful 1972 visit to Beijing. Despite Bhutto's cordial relationship with Nixon, the US was unable to reciprocate the gesture to any significant extent, given Nixon's subsequent resignation. Yet, Deng Xiaoping, Mao Zedong's successor, did maintain the engagement with Pakistan. That historical diplomatic relationship continued and has more recently been succeeded by an equally pertinent relationship dynamic in which Beijing has been struggling to cope with unrest among the Uyghur population of Xinjiang province. The fact that Pakistan is the home of Islamist movements such as Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamiat Ulema-e-Islam and has backed the Quetta Shura of the Taliban doesn't in itself suggest that Pakistan is the architect of the unrest in Xinjiang. However, China is seeking to introduce a process of rationalization to its insurgent jihadist threat in Xinjiang by introducing Pakistan as a source of power to influence the choice of theater of jihadist movements. It might be as a result of this approach that the jihadist movement has not figured prominently in Xinjiang, despite the scale of the internment of Muslims in the restive province. China appears to have moved beyond the series of border disputes with India. China's trade relationship with India is now well over $100 billion per annum. China and India have entered into agreements on intelligence sharing and internal security cooperation. Clearly, the relationship between China and India is changing. With this emerging dynamic between the two Asian giants, the nature of China's cooperation with Pakistan will invariably shift to the economic sphere, as is occurring in the BRI mega project. The reality faced by Pakistan is that Pakistan's utility in the Pakistan-China relationship is diminishing from a near alliance to a situation now where Pakistan is one of a number of important partners in the pursuit of a successful pan-Eurasian BRI.